Oh, it's a fucking new year, so let's start a new fucking sketchbook. It's a fucking new year, so let's start a new fucking sketchbook. It's a fucking new year, so let's fucking start a new fucking sketchbook. It's a fucking new year, so let's fucking start a new fucking sketchbook. Hey! Oh, shout myself. A4, a nice shiny new A4 sketchy bookety work. A little bit bigger than I'd hoped to have had. See, because I've had ones these size made by C. White of Brighton previously, and it's like a perfect. It's just such a nice. You know, I love books. You know, I love the dimensions of books. It's just such a nice size, and it's tits. Oh, love that. Because A4 books, especially when you open them up fully, it's a lot of space. You know, a lot of real estate to sketch upon. Whereas this is just a little bit nicer. I went to a store hoping they'd have them. They didn't. Of course I can order them online. I can always order them online. But, you know, the mailbox place closed down, so I don't have my P.O. box currently. I may be able to sort out another one, but it's a bit of a fucking mission, all of that shit, you know. You know how it goes. Yeah, blood. You know how it goes, blood. Fuck you talking about, man. What you chatting about? Fuck your mum. Hey, oh, shit my pants. Didn't I already say shit my pants? Yes, you fucking did. Please, fuck ass shit. Bamp, bump, bamp, bamp, bump, bamp, bamp, bump, bamp. Fogs are us. What you looking at? Fogs are us. I snatch your granny's bag. Fogs are us. You fuck with us, we fuck you up, tie you down and cut you up, Mr. Fogs are us. What you looking at? Fogs are us. I slap you round your face. Fogs are us. You fuck with us, we fuck you up, tie you down and cut you up, Mr. Fogs. I stick you up, stuck you up, struck you down and picked you up, shook you up, shake you up, took your shit and split it up, took your weed and lit it up. You're stepping into my perimeters and I'ma fuck you up. Don't forget, Fogs are us. That's a song by Task Force. That's the energy I'm trying to take into this new year of 2023. Ugh. I'm sick at the moment. I'm very unwell. I'm poorly currently, so you'll have to excuse me if I get a bit sniffly, snorfly, and you know, a bit out of breath here and there. But I'm holding in there, yeah, holding it down, like as a thug might, you know, fucking holding it down. The biggest guns, the finest drugs, the biggest dogs, the illest thugs. I'm killing time in prison cells, breathing in this living hell. Fuck the cops, thugs bust up, you know I'm living well and all. Come and have your block transformed to Fort Knox. Thugs are us. What you looking at? Thugs are us. I snatch your granny's bag. Thugs are us. You fuck with us, we fuck you up, tie you down and cut you up, Mr. Thugs are us. That's the song Thugs Are Us. Thugs Are Us by Task Force. The Task Force! Easily, and has been for a long time, one of my top favourite musical outfits. Two brothers from London, two British rappers, Task Force. They have songs about like the cosmos and nature and fantasy type stuff, and they also have songs about breaking into people's homes and stealing things, and songs about graffiti, and songs called Thugs Are Us. I'll cut you up, so just remember, Thugs Are Us. And that's, like I say, I'm trying to, you know, I've said again and again, I spent enough time talking about how fucking bad last year's been year. My mental health has not been in fucking diamond condition here. So I figure the only way I can really sort of combat that is to be aggressively violent towards a bunch of shit. I really don't like this hand, man. What have I done here with this fucking hand? Anatomy? What's that? Anatomy? I never heard of her. I never heard of he. Oh, I hate it. I really dislike it. Oh, god damn it. I was hoping to have like a nice quick just death fist, and I was going to write like death fist. Det. Can't even spell. Fist. You know, you open a sketchbook and it's all pow. I got the head all right, and then it's just the fucking my tits. Squeeze my tits as punishment for not drawing well. My nipples. It hurts when I pinch them. Fuck. I'm pinching my nipples. I don't know if you can see. This is me pinching my nipples right now. It hurts a great deal. What's the matter, Ewan? Can't afford clothes? You got to dress yourself in rags like some kind of Dickensian orphan child? Fuck is wrong with you, Ewan? Buy a new sweater. It's punk. Oh, I apologise for the snorting and snorting. Again, I'm sick. Let me off, yeah? I'm fucking sick. Fuck yeah, I'm sick. Fucking sick. Sick like the flu. Fogs are us. Fogs are us. Fogs are us. You fuck with us, we fuck you up, tie you down and cut you up, Mr. Fogs are us. What you looking at? But see, because with Gun Viking, everything was more or less, apart from one or two bits and pieces, everything was basically made up on the spot as I was drawing the comic. I was making up how everything looked as I drew it. But I want my Death Fist comic to have a little bit more sort of to look a bit better than that. I just want it to feel a bit more thought out. And so I'm going to at least start off using this sketchbook to draw a bunch of Death Fist stuff, like Death Fist in various poses and angles, so I can get used to drawing it. I saw something recently, Mr. Mignolia, Mike Mignolia, posted on Twitter and Instagram how he's working on a new comic, so he's been filling his sketchbook with drawings of stuff for the new comic, and not Hellboy related. He was very careful to let people know it's not Hellboy related. And so he's been drawing, like, I don't know, sheep and some demons and stuff, and it just sort of caught me and made me think, like, that it makes so much sense to do that rather than to just make shit up on the spot all the time. It makes sense to actually draw shit. Because I think I've said before, like, if I draw a goblin, I've drawn so many goblins that, like, I can draw them, you know, almost without looking, and it can look perfectly, like a perfectly fine, reasonable goblin drawing. Because I've done so many of them, I can just draw, like, you know, I don't need to worry about construction lines when I'm drawing goblins. Because I've drawn them so much that I can just draw them, like, in a matter of seconds. And it makes so much sense to try to get as close to that point as you can with any project you're working on, especially if it's a comic. So it would make perfect sense for me to be able to draw Death Fist and everything around Death Fist, his enemy, the environment he's in, any side characters that might take place take place, have a part in the proceedings of the comic book, it would make sense to try to get as close to this point of being able to draw them with this level of ease that I can goblins, so that when I do come to draw the comic, it's gonna look a lot better because of that. So it can only really be to my benefit to fucking put a little bit of time and effort in to my Death Fist drawings. Yeah, you get me, you feel me, blood. Yeah, you get me, yeah, you see where I'm coming from, bruv. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'm gonna attempt to do that. The problem, of course, is that's one reason I didn't do that with Gun Viking, is if I draw something twice, I'm fucking sick of drawing it. And so if I draw a bunch of Death Fist stuff, my worry is that I will use up my sort of will of wanting to draw this shit, and I'll just get really bored of it really quickly. Right, hand, wrist into the arm, sort of elbow, and underneath bit, shadow. It might work. It might look shit to do. But we can only try, can't we? We try, we see, do a bunch of fucking Death Fist doodles. See how it comes out. It might come out looking all right. It might look good. It might look bloody shit. Although I wouldn't expect it to. I think it would look all right. But I just thought this would be nice, wouldn't it? To have a little, like I say, you open the sketchbook up and it's the inside front cover, the first page, and it's all like a big, cool, big, bright pink Death Fist drawing. Sort of opens you up to, I don't know, opens it up. Opens your bumhole up. Like I say, I'm sick, bear with me. This might not be the tippity tip top, toppity tip best podcast episode you've ever seen. Because I'm sick. Fucking sick. Fuck yeah. I do have something in the way of plans for the year, though. My next book I want to do is a book of paintings, and I think I'd like to do it A5 and quite chunky, quite a thick A5 book of paintings, which could be seen as being quite small. My first book of paintings, produced in 2018, was A4. It was about this size, maybe a little bit thinner than this. But yeah, big book of paintings, and that sort of makes sense because when it's paintings, you sort of want to be able to see as much of the detail and whatnot as possible. This pen, oh boy, this pen is fucking running out. I think I've got more. Let me check. Where would they be? That's this one, isn't it? Yeah. Good job, I have some fucking weird obsession with pink highlighters. I've got 5,000 of the fucking things. At least, for the start of the year, spend a week or so putting together the paintings book. I've got a folder on my computer. I go to it right now. On my desktop, Paint 2 in capital letters. There's about 180 items in that folder. One of those items is Gun Viking folder, which there was some Gun Viking pieces. I think I had the first 2 issues done for the first paint book. Since then, I've got 3 more issues done, plus a bunch of other random paintings, a couple of other random Gun Viking paintings, covers and stuff. And then there's also a folder within that folder of Zach Ridley, which I've done a whole bunch of stuff, a whole issue and a whole 6-page prequel story. Oh, I've got sick gas coming up. It does not feel good. I can tell you that much. And yeah, so I've got, you know, the content for the. Oh god, I feel sick all of a sudden. It's probably a combination of like cold and flu tablets and caffeine pills and chicken soup and orange juice, all making me feel a bit sick. So, but yeah, so there's a bunch of paintings that I've done. The 2018 paintings paint book was paintings going as far back as I think 2012, 2013. So it was a bunch of years collected in that one book, more or less chronologically in the book. And since then, you know, about 4 or 5 years, I've got a bunch of new paintings. I'm looking at them now. There's this bunch of commissions, some graffiti stuff, a bunch of comic book stuff, some personal, funny little things, some portraits, a bunch of goblins, a few asses in there, a few painted asses. That Peppa Pig thing I did where I painted in the book. Some of them, the only pictures I have where I didn't necessarily get a good scan of it are like a screen grab of a photo on Instagram. But, you know, they can go in the book. Again, if the book's going to be A5, it's not going to be that big. So a little like screenshot from Instagram isn't going to be too bad. It should be usable. But yeah, a good bunch of stuff. I reckon I can get it to about 250 pages maybe. And I thought something I might do is like have on like one side a big blown up part of a painting with like zoomed in on one particular detail, and then the full painting on the other page with like a border around it of a colour fitting for the image itself. And that were like, you know, getting 2 pages out of one painting. And then for some of them I can maybe have the drawing that was done underneath the painting and then the final painting on the other side, that sort of thing. Yeah. Plus, you know, I can take up like at least probably 10 to 20 pages of Gun Viking stuff. I'm not just going to reprint, you know, all of the Gun Viking pages, but a few, you know, certain pages and panels and covers and stuff. 10 to 20 pages of that, maybe 5 to 10 pages or so of Zach Ridley, plus all the other painting. I could get some decent fucking shit out of that, I reckon. So yeah, the paintings book should be a good one. And I'm thinking about calling it, because the first one was paint. And then if I do this one as painter, so it'd be like Ewan Painter, which kind of works. And then if I do a third one several years in the future, I can call it Paintist. Paint, painter, paintist. Get it? You know, it's something. And then I have another folder on my laptop, desktop, whatever, collecting images for another ballpoint art book. Of all full colour ballpoint artwork. So I've done my black and white book, which is like mostly ballpoint, but with a bunch of markers and stuff in there. This hand's really ugly. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. Oh well. It was never going to be amazing, was it? Oh, God, it's hideous. That's really, really bad. Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. I thought I could draw, but it turns out I can't. This pen is new. I went into the shop I got this sketchbook from, hoping to get more of these replacement cartridges for my Pentel brush pen, wherever the fuck that's got. There. They didn't have them, but I saw these, and I've seen these be used, and they're like kind of brush pen-ish, nibs kind of ish, a little bit kind of, but not quite. I just thought I'd try them out because you can get like quite thin lines, but you can use the side and get kind of thicker lines. Not really thick, but whatever. I'm sure if you use them with a bit more care and attention, you can get better lines out of them. But that doesn't tend to be how I roll, do you know what I mean? I prefer to be a bit more rough and ready with my fucking lines. So I think the paint book, because cost is an issue, because the way I want it to look, I think, will be quite expensive in terms of printing. So I may have to do pre-orders, pre-sales or whatever before it's actually available, which I don't like to do, especially if I have issues like I did with the fucking black ink book, where, you know, if I say it's available for pre-order and then it takes weeks and weeks to actually fucking arrive printed properly, then I'll feel very silly. So I have to see how it goes, but that may be one where I have to do some kind of pre-order or something to pay for the printing, or to help pay for the printing, and then sell a shitload of copies after the fact. But it should be a good book, it'll be worthwhile. Then later in the year, another ballpoint book. Of course, Death Fist is something I do want to get done as soon as possible, but it might take a little while, because I do want to. There's a certain quality I'm going to try to achieve, a certain level of quality I'm hoping to achieve with Death Fist. So it might take a while to get to that. The next issue of Gun Viking, as I say, is sort of planned out. I've just got to sit down and do it, but that might be later into the year. I'd like to get it out next year. I figure if I can get out one issue of Gun Viking a year, that's not too outrageous, is it? Would be nice to be able to do more than that, but all the while I'm doing these books and comics and things, I'm going to have to be doing other drawings to sell, doing commissions, a whole bevy of fucking shit to keep me going. Well, that's life, innit? That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune when I'm back on top in June. High says life. I've been a puppet, a pirate, a pauper, a penis, a pee and a poo. You might have seen this book before. I've certainly looked at it on the podcast before. But sometimes I like to look back through other books and be like, hey, that was fun, let's look at that again. But I can hear you in the background saying, stop doing that, Ewan. Look at new art books. Don't look at the same old shit all the time. Oh, sick burps. Well, fine then. I'll look at the next book in the series. I've not been able to find book one again. I'm sure I could find it online. Of course I could order it online. But it's not the same. Oh, I am getting sick burps that make me want to be sick. I'm really not feeling well, but I'm powering through for you guys. I could just make a shitty little video being like, I'm sick this week, I'm taking a break. But I won't do it. I'm here for you. This is the next one in the series. Wow. Oh, I'm pinching my nipples again. Oh. Is that in South Park? Like Mel Gibson does that in South Park. Oh, my nipples hurt when I twist them. I think that's an old South Park thing. I mean, the story's whatever the story is. Slane was fighting a warped out guy, and then Slane warps out, and then it's two warped out guys having a fight. But look at that. Look how fucking cool that is. Isn't that just fucking cool? Like, that just looks fun to draw. The big lines, all the teeth, the tongue, the eye looks fucking cool. The twisted, fucked up, warped body, the big bulbous hands, the hair going this way, the body going that. The raw text in the background, which is some of the only good text in here. The the lettering in this book leaves a lot to be desired. I will say that. I love this guy's mouth, like the big open yellow glowing maw with the teeth sort of sat in there. That's really effective. I like that. I like the colours. I know blue and orange tends to be like the golden sort of combination. And blue and red, for me, they contrast a little bit too much. They're a little bit harsh next to each other. And this, I think, has that a little bit. However, it's very effective when you know the red is mostly like blood and shit. So you get this cold, stony, purpley, blue-grey colour in much of these pieces. But then it's highlighted with the red, the blood red of Slain and this other guy having their big, nasty fucking fight. Look at that. Fucking ripping his bits out. Blood and shit. The glow, the blue glow is nice. The warped Slain face is really, really cool. These fucking bulbous guys having a fight. They remind me of... I get a similar sense looking at these guys that I do when I think about the old Street Shark toys. Just how big and like bulky and tactile they are. Like you get these human figures and it's like cool, a humanoid figure, a bit fucked up but humanoid nonetheless, and then you get these big fucking gnarly chunky boys, and I like that. And that's Simon Davis's painting style fits that very well. Well, I think he uses, as far as I can tell, he uses flat brushes and not like typically round brushes. So brushes more like this than brushes like that, like flat brushes as opposed to round ones. Even for the thinner lines, I think he's using the edge of a flat brush and then, you know, the side of the flat brush to get all the chunky lines in here. Big blobs, chunky square blobs of paint that really do add to like the chunkiness and tactility, if that's a fucking word, of the figures and such within the comic book. It gives a really solid physical feel to the bodies in the story. Intestines, and this person is a god, remember, apparently, so they get their intestines chopped out but then they suck them back in because they're a god of some kind, evidently. That's a really cool pose. I use this kind of pose a lot, with this arm going this way, this arm that, and an axe. That's a good pose, a good drawing pose to like swing an axe. It's got. I've done a few flesh bob drawings with that kind of arm pose with the axe, and his hair going this way, and the textures in his face is really cool. There's a few words from Simon Davis in this bit. He says how he gave Slain a beard, and as the story progresses within these books, Slain gets more sort of like older and battle scarred and sort of weather worn and whatever. He has more texture to himself as a person. Similarly, I guess, to like what they did with Kratos in God of War. He grew up a bit, got a beard, got a bit more sort of fucking rugged and so he's done that with Slain, which is quite cool. I like that. And then with that mixed with all the blood all over his beard and mouth and hands and everything, it's a really, really cool look to the Slain book. And I mean, you know, the paintings themselves are just fucking great, just fantastic. It's so good to see new, modern, hand-painted comics, because no one fucking wants them. If you're like an old head, like Simon Davis has been doing comics for decades at this point, I think, like, you go to him and say, we've got this story idea, do it, and then he'll do it. Cool. But for the most part, they just want digital art for comic books. You do the ink by hand, maybe, sure, but then you scan it in, colour it digitally, and it looks flat and uninteresting, and it looks like every other fucking comic on the shelf. And I say that as like Marvel and DC, and that's, you know, there are many, 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 many other comics that are drawn and coloured in different ways, sure, but when you get a proper, like, fully hand-painted comic like this, that's painted so, like, thick and chunkily, it really, really stands out compared to other comics, I feel. This is a really cool scene where they're like running. So I guess this giant rock thing has come out of the ground, all these faces in it. That's really, really cool. Oh, excuse me. And they're running to get out of there, I guess. And there are some guards. And then here, the guards have all had their heads chopped off while these two run off. So Slain was fighting this guy. This guy warped out and was attacking Slain. And then Slain warped out and they were fighting each other. But then I think they ended up joining forces to fight against the person who had pit them against each other. So now they're like a team running off. I like this because, yeah, the heads are like in the air, have not even hit the ground, and they're halfway to escaping the building or whatever. And the bodies just fucking flailing around with their heads flying off their bodies is really, really cool. This is really, really fucking cool. The God Odin summoned the half-dead. All of these zombie Viking warriors. The armor is really chunky and like rusted and old looking. Arrows in their bodies. They're like texture in the bones and stuff. The teeth and the eyes, the red bulbous eyes look really, really cool. All the texture and solidity of all the weapons is really nice. But this speech bubble, if you can call it that, is just horrendous. It looks like it was cut out on MS Paint because it's almost just such a random shape. And I understand it's an expressive like kind of speech bubble, and all of these are supposed to be showing that like all of these zombie things are saying we obey the Lord Weird. But like, for one thing, you can't see any of these mouths, so you just have to sort of accept that they're saying it. For another thing, I would maybe do away with the bubble completely and just have the words "We obey the Lord Weird" here. If anything, a little thing coming up to him just to show he's saying it. Even if he's the only one saying it, you get he's saying we, including him and his undead compatriots. It's just, I really dislike this. For me, this detracts from the artwork as a whole, and it's really annoying. I talk about not liking the text in this book specifically. It doesn't do the artwork justice, I feel. I don't know if I've got a way to solve it necessarily, but for me, it's too, I don't know, jarring and unappealing visually. Because you get these really cool paintings. This fucking zombie skeletal warrior with his mustache still. All these pock-marked ribs and things and jaws. This is really cool. Like dark grey, black, blue undead warriors, and then Slain and his friend in the red, blood smeared, fighting their way through them, heads and shit flying off. It's a really good way of contrasting the main character with the enemies, having them be basically bright red compared to the grey blues of the bad boys. Like goat steeds are really cool. You're my brother. Oh, they're friendly friends now. That's cool. And this is Slain as a kid and Slain's mum. That's Slain's fucking mum. He's talking about, I've never seen you use a bow, only an axe. Bows remind me of my mother, Matcha. She was an outstanding archer. See, his mum died and she was an amazing archer, but he can't bring himself to use a bow, even though she taught him how, because it reminds him of her. And it's heartbreaking. And I like how it's like sepia tone. It's painted in like sepia tone with bits of purple here and there. But his mum's like war paint or whatever, the blue paint, is like a really nice touch to that. Like within the sepia toned flashback or whatever. And then she's got this technique. I don't know if it's a special arrow or the technique or whatever, with this big monster guys coming up behind them. And then she fires the arrow. No sooner does it reach the limit of its flight than it swings round and returns. The arrow flies up, comes back as the monster's coming behind them, and goes straight through the fucker's head. That body's really nice. Big chunky bulbous body. It's really cool. The arrow going through his head, and then he's laying dead on the floor there. It's why I rarely use a bow, because I'll start thinking about Matcha again and what happened to her. It has to be the axe. Always the axe. Trust in the axe. This lighting's really cool. The contrast, the blue-grey with the hot yellowy orange, whatever. And an ape whose mother, apparently, been chained up in this cage. And then this woman's set her free. And then using a fucking door as a shield to charge the enemy. That's cool. That's really cool. That's the sort of thing you'd want the original art of. Like, if you were going to buy an original art piece from this book, that's one of the ones you want. The paint strokes. There's almost so few. You can almost count how many paint strokes are used to paint this. They're so fat and chunky, but they're so like perfect for the texture of the whole thing. It feels so solid. And the guy is a portrait painter. As well as comics, he does portrait paintings. That's his main thing he does, Simon Davis. So he knows what he's doing when it comes to painting faces and bodies and shit. And it shows. This is cool, where he's using the techniques that his mum taught him. Remember the eagle feat, seizing an arrow mid-flight and firing it back. There's an arrow coming at him, and he catches it and then fires it back. The owl feat, where you shoot at someone you hear but do not see. He's shooting off to the side, catching the guy through the neck. And the falcon feat, splitting an arrow coming towards you with another. This arrow's coming towards his. This arrow's coming towards his, and he splits it in half. He's using the techniques his mum taught him. He's doing it. He's doing the archery. That's really cool. I like the white space used. This mouth painted in here. The teeth in his eye as he's having flashbacks of... I think they're calling into question... The bad guys are calling into question who Slane's father is, because they're basically saying his mum's a big whore who had sex with a bunch of people, and so Slane's a bastard child and he doesn't know who his real dad is, or some shit like that, and they're trying to get at him and he's all frustrated and angry about it. And then he's like defeated. Oh my god. I love these guys are in that that old Slane book I've got, the one drawn, the black and white ink one by Mick McMahon. These guys are in that, and they've got like straw covered faces with like a straw pipe thing coming out so they can breathe, with their eyes highlighted under these dome helmets. And I really like this scene, like the body shapes and everything as they're getting one arrow shot through both of them. It's really, really cool. Another cool Slane archery pose. And then these stone warriors come up in the next book, which I may have. Oh, I was going to mention that. Let's talk about text that just doesn't fit with the visuals of the comic as a whole. Like, I guess that's just like Arial Black or whatever. And because Arial Black, you can't make bold, so they've just made parts of it bigger to emphasise the archons or the archons or whatever. But to me, when I first saw it, the text in these bits reminds me of like Instagram story text. And I dislike the black shapes. I dislike the text used within those shapes. Again, I don't know what I'd do to fix it, to make it look better, but really, the lettering in this is really bad, I feel. Personally. I think the artwork is too good to have lettering this bad. Another cool piece, though, that you'd want the original artwork of, with this army of stone warriors or whatever, Slane and whoever that fucking broad is. With her fucking tits out. Ooh. And then this is a funny little like bonus story, I guess. The younger Slain and some other guy, and they're competing for something. And it's like you've got to swim out, and whosever hand touches the rock first wins. So the guy Slane's competing against fucking lops off his hand and chucks it at the rock, and so he wins. And then you've got to run from here to here, and whoever's foot crosses the line first wins. So Khalad, I guess this other guy, cuts his foot off and tosses it across the line, and so he wins. Now with only one arm and one foot, and then it's like whoever's eye is the first to gaze upon the shrine, so shall he win the third trial. And so Slain thinks he's done it, but then he sees the other guy's eye hanging on the shrine. He plucked his own eye out. This madness has to stop. And then Slain beheads the guy in charge. Bunch of shit. Cover galleries. The covers are so good. And I love how painterly they are. There's no hiding the brushstrokes, and I love that. Which I say again and again, and I still firmly believe it, is it's so good when people don't try to hide the medium they're using. Like with really grand, like oil painted portraits, it's almost like a sin to be able to see the brushstrokes. You have to blend everything so perfectly. But I love when you can see almost each individual brushstroke. And you can tell this is underpainting and this is painted on top with layers and some splatter and stuff. The texture in the beard is really good, the shadow and everything. Really good. Really, really nice covers. And obviously these would have like 2000 AD, fucking the Britannia Chronicles part whatever. With his mum somewhat sepia toned with the blue, and then him in the background with the red is really nice. A really cool. Any of these covers would be worth owning. And this is only like half painted. Like all this isn't painted. This is only just painted. But it's a really, really cool, effective cover. Eye-catching, hand-painted artwork on the front cover of a comic. And these are really cool. These are in the other books as well. The small like colour compositions. And then the drawings that they turn into, which are then painted directly on top of, I assume, I guess they're photocopied or whatever, and then I assume painted on top of the original drawings. But I know when I draw like Gun Viking pages, knowing I'm going to paint over them, it has almost like the tiniest fraction of this amount of detail. They're so scribbly and rough. As long as I know where I need to put the paint, like I add in the minimal amount of detail to save me having to draw it again and then paint it again or whatever. Whereas this, the entire thing is drawn, but it's then painted on top of as well. And that's obviously how Simon Davis works, and it works for him, so get at it. Let's go. Vamos! It's really cool shit. Really, really cool. Which is how I end all of these, by saying, yeah, it's really cool. So I can only imagine that these colour compositions are really, really small. And judging by like the size of what I assume are the pencil lines and the brush strokes, the original of this is probably like this big or something. Maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe about this size. I think this is absolutely blown up. Or it might not be. I don't know, but it's cool to see because that's obviously that. So that's the colour composition, then the drawing, and then the painting, which is really, really cool. And I know Simon Bisley's Slain looks a lot like Simon Bisley. And I don't know if he did it on purpose, but I feel this looks quite a bit like Simon Davis. I don't know if he did that on purpose. A lot more hair than Simon Davis, and I've seen a little of Simon Davis, and I think that does look quite a little bit like him. So maybe he did that on purpose, threw a little bit of himself in there. Maybe he didn't. Character design, that's really fucking cool. Gort, love that. Matcha, his mama Matcha, and the Chon Archon Stone Army. Not crazy about the design of them. I think they're a little bit too sort of blocky and static looking, but that's, I guess, the point. I don't know. Haha. Yeah, I tried to work out this arm, but I'm really not happy. I mean, the elbow should be like up here. It should be more raised, ready to fucking punch. But, you know, whatever. Fucking whatevs. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I fucking mean? One thing I do need to spend some time working out is how to really go about drawing Death Fist's poncho when it's like flaring up and stuff. Because it's not... I mean, it's similar in a way to like Spawn's cape. But it's not quite as sort of big and overblown and expressive as Spawn's cape. It has a defined shape and a limited range, I guess, whereas Spawn's cape is just fucking all over the goddamn place. But then, so Death Fist is Death Fist. I swear that's was there an Animaniacs character? A skeleton? Let me Google. Let me go to the Google. Animaniacs skeleton. Is it just going to be drawings of Animaniacs skeletons? No, it's not. Oh, Skullhead. Animaniacs Skullhead. That's his name. He looks almost exactly like... He really does. This is Skullhead from the Animaniacs. I've ruined it, but he's got like a bowler hat and a bow tie. That's basically Death Fist. Give him ears and a poncho, and it's Death Fist. That's quite funny. And I am aware, of course, of the Death Fist having similarities to certain... There's probably like at least 4 or 5 existing characters that you can draw lines to and from Death Fist. As someone has pointed out, an obvious one is Unbreakable. Bruce Willis in Unbreakable. Hellboy is an obvious one. Constantine, especially from the... I've not read many of like the Hellblazer or Hellblazer. Is that the comic? I've not read any of the comics, but I know in the film he's like trying to buy his way to heaven by sending demons and shit back to hell, which is... I've stolen that apparently. Not through really trying to, but it just happens to have sort of turned out that way. That's what Death Fist does. So this is Death Fist's big arm, which doesn't have a set size. Sometimes it's enormous, sometimes it's just a little bit bigger than his regular arm. So his poncho goes like this. So it's not like an even size, and so from like kind of underneath it's kind of like that, and then maybe, you know, it's got like creases and whatevs. So then trying to draw that like billowing out behind him is going to take some practice. I don't know, something like that. Big arm, little arm, cardboard box. I also want to work on his boots, because almost every time in Zach Ridley, all the feet, the boots were just like that, just pointy, and then in Gun Viking it was the same. But I really want to, because like I say, there's a certain sort of quality I'm hoping to achieve with Death Fist. So I really want to put a bit more effort into his boots, even give them a tongue, laces, bit of creases here and here. Maybe even make them round, which I don't tend to do. Give them a little bit of a sole, again, which I don't tend to do. And then if they're like, if you're seeing the underside, however it might look, I might even have to draw like grip on the underside of his boots. Rather than, because normally I'd just go like this. That's the boot, which is, I guess, works. It's kind of Spider-Man ish in that respect. I think that's sort of what I have in mind when I draw the pointy boots, which it does. It works, but I don't know. I just want to put a little bit more effort into Death Fist. I am hoping to, like I say, use him as like a portfolio piece. Use the whole comic as a portfolio piece to really show that I can do the shit rather than just fucking about. And I think it being black and white might help as well, because then there is the possibility for it to be digitally coloured, just as well as there is for it to be hand painted on top of the black and white inks. And of course it will have a hand painted cover, at least one or two hand painted covers. I might do one cover for the Death Fist comic and then another one for, you know, the cartoonist creating the Death Fist comic, as I've described in previous podcasteroos. So yeah, I think giving some actual time and attention to drawing Death Fist. Just sit down, draw a few Death Fists, a few characters, a few designs here and there, little bits and pieces, just to get a sense of, you know, what it is I'm trying to achieve with him and the comic in which he is a part of, or something, or whatevs. I'm trying to like pretend I know how to draw creases in material. It'll be good. It'll be a good comic. I mean, I hope, but I'm confident it'll be good. Some of those famous last words. I feel really sick right now. Like, before I just felt a bit unwell. I've had like, I've been shivering a bit and I guess had a fever and a pretty sore throat. It's from, I know it's from London, from being on the fucking underground and shit and the trains on the way to and from London. Just the sick London people everywhere. And I think normally I'm just filthy enough that, you know, when there's germs and bugs in the air, my body just goes, poof. Do you know how filthy I am, just in general? These germs are nothing to me. But I guess every now and again, they catch up, and it's just a little bit too much for my little body to handle. And so I got sick. But yeah, right now I'm feeling like I don't think I will throw up, but I'm feeling that kind of nausea of feeling a bit throwy uppy. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to do like some sick fucking graffiti font here. There was this guy, he was one of the first people to take me like tagging properly. He wrote Mez at the time. I believe he went on to write other things, but the name he tagged with was Mez, M-E-S, MES was his tag. And he did this piece. He sort of blew me away a little bit. I was kind of obsessed with it for a little while. I wish I'd kept the sketch. I think he would have let me if I asked. So he wrote Mez, and he did this piece. I'd never saw it painted, but he showed me a sketch of it where it was just 3 letters, and each letter was like an inverted one of these, like the spade suit from a deck of cards, which isn't outrageous. That shape is used in graffiti occasionally by various artists or whatever. But yeah, the M is almost, you can almost sort of see where the M would be without trying too hard. M. He did it a lot better than this, and then I think the E was kind of like this. It's like a very sort of modern European tag style. I'm really not doing it justice, but like a capital E kind of, and then the S was like that or something like that. But he put a lot more care and attention into it, and it looked really, really fucking cool. And ever since then, I've been kind of obsessed with that shape and trying to make letters that shape, because I think it's kind of genius that he was able to do that. And other writers have done stuff as good, if not far better than that. But I like it, so I'm using that here for the I think. If I know what the fuck I'm doing at all. What was it? The D here, E, A, T, H. It's all over the place. It's not great. F, I, S, T. I was going to do like a graffiti font. I don't know. This is in no way indicative of text that will be used for the cover or anything in the final comic of Death Fist. This is just purely for this page, just so it's pink here, a big wash of pink across the page. I don't really have any sort of solid idea of what I will do for the font or the title text of Death Fist. I think I might have it fairly standard, sort of comic book looking text or whatever, because I'd like the initial half of the comic to come across as like a parody of various kinds of comics, before it gets into like, being a meta sort of thing about the anxieties of the guy creating the comic. So I think a standard sort of like comic book text thing for the title would sort of fit quite well with that. Yeah, that sort of would make sense, wouldn't it? Use this, dot the I. Oh, excuse me. Let me get some grey in there. Oh, that's cool. I wasn't sure if that the black sort of almost brush pen I had, it said the ink was water-based. So I was worried it would smudge when another marker was used on top of it, as a lot of water-based inks tend to do. But it seems to be holding up all right. So that's pretty cool. kind of. And then maybe we go dark grey for the thing rather than the thing with the thing. I'm sick. If this is really boring and uninteresting because I'm not talking, it's because I'm sick. Like I say, I do feel a little bit nauseous and throwy uppy. I'm sure I won't, but wouldn't that be something though? We've had my landlady fucking interrupt an episode. Oh, that might have been on the Patreon exclusive episode actually, so I don't know if everyone would have heard that. But that happened. And then maybe we'll get me throwing up interrupting an episode. Wouldn't that be fun? I like that S. That's quite a nice S, isn't it? Fist. And then let's get the death part done. It's not perfect, but it's alright. I like it. Death Fist. Yay! Oh boy, I really don't feel well at all. I don't feel well. I don't like this arm. But I guess that's the point, isn't it? That's why we're doing shit in a sketchbook, is so we can find out what does and doesn't work with this whole fucking Death Fist character. So we can get to a point of comfort with him and with drawing him. So that when I do draw him, it looks fucking sick every single goddamn time. And then his other leg was going to be coming out like here. Not loving this pen. I think it's okay. You have to be like quite controlled with how you use it. It doesn't do well for like quick, rough motions. Which is fine, but it's not really how I work, is it? I don't know if I'll use these too much. I did think, if these pens come out to be quite cool, I could use them for the Death Fist comic, which I think I was originally planning to do almost solely in ballpoint, which I'm not sure about because I know it can be seen as unprofessional, which is why I like to use it so much, or one of the reasons I like to use it so much. But even if I like outline the comic in a pen like this and then go in and do a load of cross-hatching with ballpoint pen and then sort out all like the contrast and stuff so it's all one flat black, I think it could look quite cool. It'll take a little bit of experimentation. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Very good. And then out of it we'll get one bad fucking ass comic. Maybe. it's kind of cool. I was going to say, I guess I've got time to just fit in a little bit of something I was going to talk about. I don't know if you recall, if I can find it now, I'll put it up. I did a drawing of like Ewan through the ages of like, I don't know, like 10-year-old and then 13 and then 15 and 18, 21. And like, this would be a fun page, wouldn't it? So there was like a little Ewan, and a slightly bigger Ewan, and a slightly bigger Ewan, and like my face started off like this, and then got like this, and then got like this, and then got like this, and then so I grew up, and then as I got older and older, I grew down, and then it's like Ewan hunched over, and then Ewan like on the ground, and then Ewan was in a puddle by the age 30, but then by I think it was 32, there was like a kind of skeletal zombie Ewan pulling himself up out of the puddle that he'd fallen into, and that was sort of 2021, I think. And so I'm thinking of adding to this now, where it was every sort of like 3 years between all of these points, but now I'll do like here to here, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, because I know this was 2021 where I was trying to pull myself up out of this puddle. And so 2022 would be I've fallen back into a puddle, just a puddle with like a bubble or two, maybe a jawbone fucking sticking out of it, just fucking sludge. Because this sort of describes my general feeling throughout the years, being like sort of whatever at this kind of age, and then I grew up and got disillusioned, depression started becoming a thing, self-hatred, anxiety, and all the rest of it, and it just wore me down and wore me down and wore me down. But started making a living as an artist, and I really tried to pick myself up. But then this past year, I've just slumped back down, straight, just fucking ugh. And I'm hoping for this coming year, so if this is 2022, it's back into the sludge, I'm hoping for this next year to have a puddle of sludge with like a hand coming out of it. Like, I'm not dead yet. I wish I was. But I'm not quite dead yet. I'm trying. And that's why I was saying with like, I need to have that fucking thug, angry disposition. I think that might be the only thing that can get me out of the sort of emotional and otherwise slump I'm in, is to just be aggressive and angry and say fuck you to everyone, and just to fucking murder everybody, be better than everyone at everything at all times, make a killer fucking comic about a guy with a big arm, make some cool fucking art books, and just be fucking good. Try to be the fucking gangster motherfucker that I know I can be, and that's what I'm aiming for. It might not work. It's hard. It's really hard to keep yourself up and going all of the time. Lord only knows. I know that only too well. I'm sure many of you do too. But like I say, this past year, or this last year just gone now, was a fuck. And I'm gonna try and be better this year. I'm gonna fucking try.